Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome back to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner.
I'm Jared Flo.
Thank you guys for joining us again. So we are in the middle of our leadership series. If you did not listen last week, this isn't going to make a whole lot of sense. It will make some sense, but please go listen to the last podcast we did. That's where we kind of set up the entire series, as well as talk about me, them, and us. The me being me as the contractor, as the leader of this company.
Leader of people.
How do I set myself up? How do I create that mindset? How do I work on myself to become a better leader?
Yeah.
And this week, we're talking about one-on-one, our employees, specifically individuals inside of the company. Now, next week, we're going to talk about us, the whole company as a whole. How do you lead a company? How do you set the culture? And that will be the next podcast. But this podcast is about how am I a leader to individuals?
That's right.
Right?
That's
so,
right.
Jared, there are, in our opinion, there are two different types of employers. Tell us about the two different types of employers and why we choose the way that we manage a company.
That's right. So the way that we look at it is that you are either a leader that is a taker or a leader who is a giver, right? And a leader who is a taker is they have people that work for them and they are constantly taking from them. They pay them a check and they are taking as much as they can get from them to be able to, for the money that they're getting.
It's an exchange of goods.
It's an exchange of goods. That's right. But the difference is a giver is a person that views their employees as a valuable asset, and I as the leader am giving to them. I'm giving time to them. I'm giving development, education. I'm trying to give them more money. All that stuff. I'm looking to pour into the people that I have working for me because as they grow and develop. It has a better benefit to me and the company. Yeah,
and a lot of people aren't going to listen and be like, "Oh, I'm a taker for sure." No,
right.
People don't name themselves that, but in reality, a majority of construction companies that we've come in contact with have more of the taker mentality, and the taker mentality is, "I'm the king of the castle. I'm the big boss around here. Nobody looks at me sideways. No one disrespects me. I'll tell you when you're done." And it's all about that person.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes
me.
Sometimes that's a byproduct of being in this business for a long period of time because you get taken advantage of. You run through employees. You run through subcontractors, and it's just you finally get to this place of hardened. I'm just going to do whatever it takes to get what I want. And you end up in a cycle because you end up losing people over.
Well, and your employees become the tool to collect your money. Yeah. Right. It is how I can execute. How can I grind this machine as much as I can until I replace them because I'm throwing them out because they're not making me money anymore.
Yeah. Well, and one big distinction, but between being a taker and a giver as a leader, the taker mentality is short term. It is a short term. I'm going to do what it takes to get my money, right? By nature of doing that, your ability to grow and step out of a company is minimized, if not possible. Yeah. As a giver, it is a long-term play. Yeah. It is I am giving and pouring into people that will be the future leadership and growth and development.
Yeah, and we do that, and this sets up the whole episode today. Because the way that we do that is the mentality of how we view our role and our employees' role. And in construction specifically, it is extremely important to do what we're about to talk about. Now, in all companies, we feel it is the right way to run it is being the giver and being a support and building the company around these employees and building them up and fighting for them. That's, we believe, is the right way to run a company and any leadership. But in construction specifically, our project managers get their soul sucked out of them sometimes. We've had clients that are very unreasonable. It is always being yelled at. It is clients and subs that are always taking from them, always trying to take advantage, always have to have your guard up. And so it is even that much more imperative in construction to have a support giver mentality as the boss, because that is their one time that they're coming up for air.
that
right?
they can be built up.
The meeting with you that one time this week is where it's like, support, someone's here, right? We've seen time and time again burnout of every single employee because that boss, the leader, is just as bad as that client, just as bad as that sub that's trying to take advantage, just as bad. And you're on an island as an employee, as a project manager, because it's me versus the world.
Well, and over time, as we were learning this, I've literally had employees say to me, I am being taken advantage of by my subs. I'm being screamed at by the clients, and then I come to the office and you're screaming at me and you're laying into me for another thing that I'm not doing right. I'm failing in every direction that I go. And you can't sustain in that place for long.
Absolutely. So with that mentality, with that mindset that we're trying to set up, we're going to walk you through the life cycle of an employee, of how we bring them in, how we manage them, how we raise them up. Also, how do we do corrective action, and how do we lead in all of those areas to where they want to follow, and that we're leading into a good place, right? We're not just aimlessly leading them, but they know what's coming. There is safety, there is security. I want to spend my time and invest my years of work in this company because I see the investment paying off for me.
Right.
Right. And so that's the mentality we're going for. That starts for us with three main things that we want to achieve with every employee.
That's right. Our goals as the leaders for individuals.
We want professional development. I want them to professionally be developed. I want personal development. I want you to be a better man in 12 months from today than you are because of being here.
Right.
Personally developed, professionally developed. I want you to be a better project manager in 12 months because you've been here. And thirdly, company development. I want you to help develop this company. You are a key asset in this company, and you are one of the 5 mouths, one of the 10 mouths here that we're all working to feed, right? And we are all working together to build this. And so it's not just personal and professional development. I also want it to be developing the company. Now, that's not our employees' goal necessarily,
right?
But that's part of, I need those 3 boxes checked with every employee for it to be a very successful hire and a successful life cycle in our company for that employee.
But when your employees see that you are an advocate for their personal and professional development, you get buy-in of their desire of the company development.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. It's all it's got the synergy where if you're doing one and the other, they all are feeding each other.
That's right.
If I'm caring about you personally being developed, obviously you feel secure in your job and safe and taken care of and being invested in. Right. And so it's a beautiful a relationship if it's done right, because we're both achieving our goals together, leaning on each other.
Right.
So how do we do that? How do we go through and develop people's personal lives and their professional lives? So the 2 things that we do are accountability and structured support. And the goal of keeping people accountable in the right way and having structured support, those create safety, those create security, and those create an environment that people say, I want to spend my time. I want to invest my time, my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, my 50s, my 60s, whatever it is, with this company, because it's worth the next section of my life in investing here as opposed to going somewhere else and trying to climb a ladder somewhere else. So let's talk about that. How do we do accountability, structured support? How do we build that up? And we're going to walk through a life cycle, right? So let's go from hire through an employee working in our company. When an employee first, or a potential employee, is interviewing, this is one of the biggest areas that you're setting the tone for leadership, right? If I am sitting down and you are looking to interview here, it's a 2-way interview. I'm seeing if I want to hire you. You, even if you're desperate for a job, you're still seeing if you want to work here.
That's right.
Right. And so in our interview process, the hiring, the very beginning, the very first conversation, I am setting a leadership tone in the company. When I'm talking to them on the phone and interviewing, then bring them into the office and we sit and interview. What are you looking for in those interviews, Jared? How do you start setting that tone of the leadership role?
Well, I mean, I think, this is something I said to you before. I think that people don't care what you have to say or what you have to offer until they understand that you care, right? And so when you're in an interview space, I'm trying to gather information from this person to understand skill level and the way that they think and all that stuff, but I'm also trying to start the basis of building a relationship. I'm not just asking about what's your experience. Do you know how to work these type of programs? Have you ever project managed? Have you ever, do you know how to install these things? Those things are important, but I'm also trying to understand what's going on in their life. What do they want? What are their goals? What are their desires? What do they want in life? I'm trying to figure out, I know for us, as I've assessed in our last podcast myself, my desires and vision for this company, I need people that align with that. So I'm in the interview process, the very, very beginning, I'm assessing them and trying to understand, do they align with the vision that we have for this company? Are their goals a part of that, and will they fit into it? And so as I spell those things out to my first interview on the phone, I'm probably not going through that. But my second interview, as I'm really kind of developing this relationship, I'm spelling out pieces and parts of where we're going as a company, the vision that's there, how I can see if I were to hire this person, they would be in this role but have potential for some future growth, some development, as well as one of the other things that you mentioned earlier, safety and security. One of the things that provides safety and security is being in with somebody who has a organized plan. Right? So part of our interview process from the very, very beginning, you haven't been hired yet. We do a phone interview, then we do an in-person interview. We might do a couple in-person interviews, and then you move to actual tangible things. Go write us an estimate, go do this, and so there's actually a full process for this that's spelling out the culture of what it will be like as an employee in this company, that I have something, that there's structure here that I'm going to step into as an employee, which feels safe to me.
Well, I remember giving one of our coaching sessions with a individual who's a contractor, but he doesn't have any employees. He's still swinging a hammer. He's out, and he's trying to find that first hire. And I remember saying to him, listen, man, you are trying to find a hire, but what you're doing is asking someone to tag along with you. When you're talking to these guys, it's like, hey, you're offering them 1 week of work in their life, in their brain, right? Hey, you should come work for me. I got some jobs going on. Right. It is a short-term, not long-term investment for them. It is, great, I need something. I got to make some cash till I figure out what I'm going to do next. I told that guy in that coaching session, put a suit on. Meet them at Starbucks. You don't have an office, no problem. Meet them at Starbucks. Have a professional outlook on what you're doing in this company. Let them know where you're going and say, listen, you're going to be my very first hire. I don't have any other employees. You're going to be number one. And what that should mean to you is that as we grow this into a $5 to $6 million company over the next 2 years, is that I'm going to need a lot of help. And I'm going to need a right-hand man. I'm going to need someone to help run this company. And I see that potential in you, right? I'm laying out their professional development in that second or third interview, saying, this is what I see happening here. How does that feel to you? And so no one ever in an interview says, you know what, I'm just going to be here short term. I don't really care about the future, right? No one says that, right? Everyone's trying to sell themselves. But the response is very telling. This response to, this is what I see in the next 2 to 4 years. I see you a part of that. How does it sound? If they're like, yeah, that sounds great, means they don't care about the future here as much. Or if their response is, wow, that sounds huge. Like, that sounds awesome. How are you going to achieve that? And they start asking and engaging questions. And where do you see my role in that? And if I were to step in, what does that mean for me? If they're doing that, they are also trying to see that long-term professional development in their brain. And so, okay, that guy cares about long-term professional development here. That box is checked. Right. So that's, if you're interviewing ever with me, that's use that as a cheat. But that's one of the things. Then we're also trying to understand their personal development. What's the next 12 months look like for you personally? I mean, where are you at right now? You're not legally allowed to ask about, like, marriage and children and all that
Right.
stuff. But it's getting into like, what are your goals? Like, what are you trying like in life? Like, what do you do? What are your hobbies? What are you excited about? Trying to understand how I'm going to motivate this person and lead them to be a better person, to be a better professional.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So that's when we're talking about interview, that is what I'm looking for, is not just, can I lead this person? Is this person that I want in this company? But also I'm laying the groundwork that after that interview, that guy says, these guys know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
That's worth my investment in this company.
Yeah.
And I'm going to, I'm turning down the Home Depot job with benefits to work at this company because I've got a lot higher of a ceiling that I'm going to grow here.
Well, and in the interview process, all of that stuff is doing one thing. It is setting the foundation of the leadership vision that will happen in this company. And it's also prepping me. If I do hire this person, I have some of this information.
Yeah.
Right. I already know that this is the direction that we're going to go. We had a guy years ago that he was interviewing with us, and one of his big things was he needed assistance with counseling. Just personal life, needed assistance with counseling. And
we didn't know that at the time.
We did not know that at the time. But as we were spelling out the vision of what we do in this company and the values that we have as a company, that was one of the things that we mentioned that we provided, and that was the thing that tipped it over the edge for him.
We pay 80% of your counseling costs. So
That's
if
right.
you need to be, your wife, your spouse, you and kids, any family counseling that's needed, we care about a holistic view of our employees.
Right.
And for him, it was like, my wife literally just mentioned she wants to start going to counseling.
Yeah.
And that you guys care about that, that's, I'm in.
Yeah. Well, and that's the importance of, as you're leading people, I just want to throw this statement in there. As you're leading people, you have to walk the walk.
Yeah.
You have to actually provide the standard. You have to do the things that I care about people's personal development.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's a great statement. All right. But no, we actually back that with, and because of that, we provide this.
Yeah. And we'll talk about that in the steps too, of how do you do that and actually follow through with it.
That's
because promises are one thing. If I say, hey, Jared, you're my first hire, we're going to do $10 million by next year, and you're going to be making six figures.
Right.
No.
Sweet.
No, I'm going to sniff that out, right?
Yeah.
So how do we actually deliver on what we're promising? That's the most important part of leadership.
Absolutely.
So, but going from the interview, we hire the person, we like them. The next step of building the leadership with that employee is the onboarding. And I would probably say, if I was to judge our contracting company, that is the spot that we have had the least amount of attention. I think we do it well, but I think we can improve it, and we are improving it. And our general manager has got a lot of plans and a lot of things he's rolling out right now. But that's been a focus recently for us.
There are things that we do well, and there are things that we failed at.
Yes,
for sure.
And how did we find that out? Exit interviews.
That's right.
When we've had people in the past year, we've had a couple of people that have left for different reasons, and we found that out in the exit interview of what they've needed, and asking that and talking to the employees. So onboarding is very, very vital, because that, again, I'm setting the tone of personal, professional, and company development.
Right.
And what that means is the safety and security for you. You show up on day one, you got all the stuff ready, and I'm not saying, okay, here's an estimate, go do it for this client, go. I have got a training process down. We always spend at least a month, usually a month and a half, where someone is not making a penny for us, right? I don't want my new project manager out there running jobs. I want them learning. I want them learning the software. I want them learning our processes. I want them learning our core values. I want them understanding why and how we do everything, following along with other PMs, assisting our other PMs.
Yeah.
And it is how a bad leader in this situation says, hey, what else you don't know much about this? Great, I'll show you that. All right, you good? All right, why don't you go do an estimate and let me know when you're done?
Right.
Out on an island. I'm not being led.
A good leader is a person who has constant proactive thoughts or forethoughts about their employees' needs, and ensuring that they're set up for wherever they're gonna be. So I'm, daily management is, I think that's the difference between leadership and management. Management is everything that's happening today. Leadership is what's coming. Where are we going?
Today was set up last week.
That's
not
right.
Before,
That's right. And so when it comes to when an employee first foot in the door, what do they need? How have I set them up with the tools and things that they need to get moving? Training, education. Do we provide phones? Do we provide credit cards? Do we provide a key card? Do we have an employee manual? All of those things in an organized fashion goes, wow, like these people thought about where I was going to be on day one.
Yeah. And
right?
we said in the last podcast, and it's good here too, as high as I set the bar, that's how high my employees are going to get. They're going to be, if I set it at a 70, they're going to get to 60, 65.
Yeah.
If I set it at 90, they're getting to 80, 85. If I set it at 100%, they're getting 90, 95 underneath that. They're going to follow our lead.
Yeah.
So if they show up and our job is to train them and we aren't prepared.
Yeah.
Next, 2 months down the road, their job is to prepare for our renovation. I'm expecting them to do pre-construction perfectly. I'm expecting them to set all their ducks up.
But I haven't set the precedence for that.
But we're not doing that,
That's
right?
right.
And so that needs to equal out. What we're asking of them needs to be at minimum achieved when we're giving it to them from our side.
That's right.
So that's the hiring onboarding process. So once they're in, we're going to talk through how you keep an employee led, right? How do we continue to lead them throughout their employment with you? So we have thorough training, even during any way that you need it. Whatever it is, but especially in the front end, we're doing a lot of thorough training on how we deal with crews, how we find crews, how we order materials, how we run labor, how we do all that stuff. We do PAL meetings. We do review meetings. We do a PAL meeting is a weekly meeting, which project manager action list. That's why it's called a PAL. We're building an action list of what's going to be done in the next 7 days.
Right.
We're reviewing what's done in the last 7 days. And this meeting can easily feel like a principal's office or a support group. And we want it to be a support.
A place for a breath.
Yeah, and that's what we were talking about earlier is we want them to come into that meeting once a week. And why we say once a week, not every other week, not twice a week, we like it once a week because it's enough touch point to where I don't have to micromanage the rest of the week. I'm not in your business every single day. I trust you, but this is our game planning meeting. This is all of our project managers show up with stuff that they got to get done. And this is where the leadership happens of let me be your support. Let me hold you accountable, but also let me be an extra set of eyes and let me carry some burdens for you right now. What do you need? What can I do for you? You still can't find a painter? Okay, let me make some calls.
Yeah.
Right. It's a full support meeting, and then we do quarterly meetings. We do we do company meetings once a month, and we do end of the year, beginning of the next year, we'll do a financial meeting for all the employees. Right. There is a form and fashion of the minimum amount of meetings that give them the maximum amount of support is the goal. And so being able to have those throughout the year, throughout the month, throughout each week is the touch points to where I'm not micromanaging, I'm not having to call them, but I'm giving them support and I'm showing them leadership and I'm easing their burdens on a weekly basis.
Well, and I think that's a great place where they're getting that support. But I think the other thing when you're talking about the leadership piece of it, when I've done the important research with my employee to understand what are their goals, what are their desires personally, professionally, those are the places where when I'm meeting with that individual and I'm prepping for my time with them, whether it is an annual review with them or a review during the week, I know where they want to go. And so I have the opportunity in that space to come and support them and say, here's where you want to go. You're doing a great job. You're making progress that direction.
Yeah.
And helping, it's showing them that I am for trying to get them where they want to go.
Yep.
Right. It's that, again, me having the down the road thinking for them, and then in the meetings, putting that together for them and showing them if they're getting off the road, showing them how to get back to the road.
A great example, especially early on with new project managers, but a great example of that is we set invoice goals. How much are you going to invoice each month, right? How much can you invoice as a project manager each month? This is what I want you to do. And every single PM is different, right? There's some that are newer that are invoicing less. There's some that have been here for a while that are invoicing more. But every month, our general manager sits and says, okay, what do you think you're doing next month? This is what I see on the books. This is our pipeline. This is what I think you can do. And so that is our check-in throughout the week and each week, as well as throughout the month of, hey, you wanted to invoice $90,000 this month. We're 2 weeks in and you've done $8,000. Where you at? What's going on? How are we getting that last $82,000 in the last 2 weeks of the month, right? And so it's keeping on those goals because, and we'll talk about this in a second, we have pay compensation tied to some very, very strict qualifiers, which is invoicing, profitability, and your PAL score, which is what happens in the PAL meetings.
Right.
Really, customer satisfaction is what it is. So those three things make up your raise. And so as a leader here, as a giver for you, my goal and the most important thing that I can do as your boss is fight for you to make more money. That is that's the difference of the giver and taker, right? The taker is, what's the least I can pay you to get the most out of you?
Right.
And the employee in that type of company is, what's the least amount of work I can do to get the most amount of money? And we flip that and we say, what can we do to give you the least amount of work to do and get you the most money?
Right.
How can I fight for you to make more money? Because when you make money, I make money. So we're on a team. I'm here to support you. If I can help you invoice more this month, we're both making more money. So how do we do that?
And the beauty of having a financial document like that,
Yeah.
it allows you as the leader, manager of that person to step away from, it's my opinion, I like you, I don't like you, I had a bad conversation with you, whatever. It's not that.
Yeah.
It is, the numbers are the numbers. They are on this form. Okay, you're running low right now. How do we get you to a higher spot? How do we get you back? Where are you missing on your profit? Right? What are you doing for your PAL grades that are getting low? Right? It allows you to advocate for them and really be like champion their growth and their financial growth.
And having those goals and having it spelled out in a spreadsheet to where they can literally project exactly what they're going to make 6 months, 12 months. We do raises every 6 months. We never go backwards. Right. And they can project on the spreadsheet every 6 months. And if you're an Alliance member, we give you this spreadsheet and we set you up for hires and that sort of thing. But our compensation worksheet allows them to say, okay, how much money do you want to make? $72,000. Great. Okay, so let's figure out how to get you there. If you did this, do you think you could do this? Do you think you could invoice this? Okay, great. So in 12 months, you should be at $75,000 if you hit those goals.
Right.
But then I'm 6 months into you working here. In the first 5 months, you laid an egg and didn't do a good job. On 6 months, you're doing a little better. And now it's time for your 6-month review. I say, Jared, man, bro, what's up? This is hard because you're not getting a raise. And we talked about you getting a raise at this point. I see the efforts you're making. And if we keep the effort you did this past month for the next 6 months, you're going to have a huge raise. But if not, if you fall back into where you were a couple months ago, you're not getting any more money. So let's talk about that. What happened there and how can I help you not have that happen again?
Right.
Totally different than, Jared, you did not make your quota. We are not giving you any raises. You need to perform better.
It's always a bottom line conversation.
Yeah. Right. And those are the same conversations said two different ways.
Right.
So having those meetings, having the ability to see the personal development, the ability to see the professional development and keeping them on track to their goals is all caring for the company as well, because if they're hitting their goals, the company's hitting its goals.
Yeah. Well, and I think, we talked about the value of safety and security as an employee. And I think that accountability, while, nobody really wants to say, give me all the accountability you can give me. Right. But there is a sense of safety and security that I have somebody backing me up and watching. Right. Now, if somebody's micromanaging me and constantly banging on me and telling me that I'm doing a bad job, that's different. But when you have the ability we have a spelled out expectations that is super, super clear, which is very important when you're leading people, is that what equals success to them is a clear, spelled out, if you do these things, you are successful. If you're below those, then you're below where you need to be, and we need to get you back up. But if you have something that's very clearly spelled out, it gives them a sense of security because they know when they're doing well, right? And then you back that up with a weekly accountability and support, where it's not a principal's office, but it's like, hey, these couple of things you're falling short on, what can I do? Is there something that I missed?
Yeah.
Is there some clarity I need to come up with? Why are we missing on these things? How can I support you in that?
Yeah.
Right? That's a whole different conversation than, hey, you didn't do these things. Next week you better, or we're going to be having a harder conversation.
For sure.
Right? And so it creates that safety and security that is a desirable thing for an employee because they feel cared for, they feel seen, and they feel led.
Yep. So along with the training, building that safety security, leading them through meetings, through accountability in those meetings, and through setting goals and sticking with it, the last thing that we have on that list is an open door.
Yeah.
And this is something that is very, very, very hard to learn, and is a lot of who you are. It can be learned.
Right.
But it's our general manager and our upper management are therapists sometimes.
Right.
I have an open door at all times, whether it's a question about a job, whether it's a question about how do you deal with your wife because I'm having some issues, whatever it is, I am here for you. I am here to support you. Now, I might be extremely busy, but when you come in my office and say, hey, man, do you have a second? I'm just struggling with some stuff. I'm saying, hey, hold on, let me check my calendar. Let me see what I got. I'm going to move this. Yeah, I got 30 minutes. What's up? What's going on? What can I help you with? Well, this customer's doing this. I don't know what to do about this. I just feel at a loss.
Right.
Right. Open door policy for that support for the needs that happen, as well as, and I think our GM does this really well, is keeping an eye on what's going on with people, and in that right moment, popping your head in their door, say, hey man, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, are things? You just seem off today. Like, if you're cool, you're cool. That's fine, and you're just busy. That's totally cool. I just want to make sure that everything's all right.
Yeah. Well, look, I think that is a really, really important statement because it's very easy as a leader to say, yeah, I've got an open door policy. I don't understand what the problem is. My door's open. Like, they could come and talk to me at any point. And what you need to understand is that you're the boss. You're either the owner or you're in a leadership position. Yep. You're in charge of their paycheck. You're in charge of whether they put food on their table or not. And having an open door policy, it's great to have on your door, hey, open door policy, come in anytime you want. But it is your job to lead by example that the door's actually open.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's very easy to be like, well, my door's open and they could have come and talked to me. Not my fault.
Yeah.
Or
they come in and say, hey, man, do you have a second? I'm just really struggling with this client. And say, Ms. Jackson, I've already talked about this with you. What did you do?
Right. Right.
That's not an open door. That's a shaming.
Yeah, but it's the, a good leader has a pulse of their people.
Yep.
And knowing when somebody's off. And I mean, you can't do this as an exact science, but having it as a thought that if you're just head down on your computer or head down out on the job sites and all this stuff, you're going to miss the pulse of your people.
Yep.
There are plenty of times that I've popped into people's office and said, hey, I could be off. Is everything cool? Like, you just, it feels like something's going wrong. You're, whatever. Like, I just want to check on you.
Yeah.
Right. And that is, it's literally making the open door tangible. People feel like open door means that somebody has to come into your office, but you can take your open door to somebody.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's an important statement to make about that.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is one of those spots where, when we talked about the last podcast and the first one in the leadership, is how being self-aware and knowing myself. I think one of the most important traits is when it comes to the open door policy is think about how you approach anybody in life, right? For me personally, and I'll share my baggage in terms of as a leader. I am an 8 and on the Enneagram, and if you know what that is, it is head down. I don't care about how we get there. I care about hitting the finish line. If there's not forward progress, forward movement, I'm demotivated. And it can be I can turn into a bull in a china shop because I just care about getting to the other side. I know that about myself, right? I know that that's how I am. I often, if I'm going to have a flawed thought, it's things over people. It's achievements over the well-being of somebody. And I know that about myself. I know that that's my nature as an 8 and who I am.
Occasionally on your time blocks, you would time block in, go see people.
Yeah, go check on so-and-so, right? Because I care about them. It's hard for me to compartmentalize what I'm doing now and identify that you need something, right? And so that's something that I share with with people that I'm leading, that I'm working with, and saying, listen, if this happens, this is a weak point that I know about that I'm guarantee you while you're working here, that I'm gonna fail at.
But the effect of that is not intentional.
Yes, and I'm working on that. And if I miss that, I'm giving you full permission to raise a flag.
Yeah.
Like, hey Clark, I feel like timeout. You're kind of bull in a china shop right now.
Yeah.
And I'm giving you my word, I will listen to that.
Yeah.
And I will back off and I will stop and I'll think about timeout. This is not what I want.
Right.
So again, it's the open door, even if you're not perfect at that, even if you're not a therapist, even if you don't identify what people are struggling with and like, you can still do it. It just takes more work for me than it does for you, right? That's natural for you to care for people. And so for you, you don't have to think about it. But for me, I've got the time block to do that. And that's okay. It shouldn't be offensive because I'm time blocking because I still care just as much as the next guy.
Right.
But I just don't, it doesn't have that trigger in my brain.
You have to be more intentional about it. That's right.
And so I think that's something with this of,
that's the self-aware,
last week
knowing
self-awareness.
yourself.
Where it's okay to not be that way naturally, but it's not okay to make that as your excuse of why you're not doing it.
That's right.
So that's what the open door. So that's how we deal with kind of maintenance of employees in terms of leadership throughout their employment.
Right.
There's two other portions of this. And both of them are, when we're talking about personal and professional development, challenging them to growth as well as corrective action.
Right.
Both of those are the same thing for different reasons. So what we do when we identify...
both of them are almost identically the same except for one's official.
Well, yeah, and they're different reasons that trigger it.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the trigger for challenging for growth is... Okay, Jared's been a project manager here for 3 years. He's killing it. He's always good. Guys come to him. He's kind of a natural leader here. He's really, and so I'm going to push into him in the POW meeting. He's like, dude, I see that in you, and I want that to continue. You're good at identifying that with people, and I'm not. I want to lean on you for that. I want to challenge you that you're going to help. And so what we ended up doing is creating a senior project manager role at our company.
Right.
And what that is, that's kind of our management and training. That is, you're still a project manager. You still got a full plate of jobs, but you're going to help with some estimates as overflow. You're going to do some special projects with us where we're trying to investigate and figure out different things that we want to try and do as employees here. And you're also going to help us train new employees coming in.
Yeah.
So you're going to be the number 2 to our manager, and you're going to help other employees coming in terms of they're going to be your assistant on your jobs, and you're going to train them up. And
in that position, you are getting a more intentional focus of leadership development.
Yep.
Right. In that position, you are, your next level up is going into an actual leadership position, and so in that position, you are being groomed. You're trained. There is, the leader of the company is working to develop that person, understanding their strengths and weaknesses, and helping them develop in the areas that they're going to need when they move into a leadership
and
position.
that takes years for a lot of people in terms of getting the person that's going to lead or be upper management in the company trained to that position where they are also the leader. And it's a lot of time, effort, sweat, tears.
It's one thing to learn how to become self-aware. It's another thing to be able to function out of that
naturally
out of that.
And to be able to mold others to be aware themselves, right? And so that's the big journey. But challenging people to grow is professionally usually is that for us, but it's also, we've had an office manager that we're like, where do you see yourself? And it's like, well, I want to be head of operations for this company. Okay, well that takes a different level, right? And so it was like, what do you want to do to get there? How do we help you get to that personally? That's where you want to go, and professionally that's where you want to go. How do we help? And she said, I don't feel confident in business. I don't know a lot about business.
Well, what will get you there?
What can we do to help you get that knowledge? I'd love to take night and evening classes, do some work throughout the day, but not a ton, and be able to get a master's in business administration. And we looked at it and we said, okay, what does that mean for the company? And we paid for them to go to college, right? And we spent 2 or 3 years paying for their schooling to get that knowledge because we're investing in them, but also holding them, okay, if we're going to do this, you need to step up professionally.
Right.
We're investing and we want a return on that investment, and so do you. And once you get to this spot, there's going to be raises, and once you get to this spot, there's going to be more responsibility, right? And so it's challenging them for growth, but also following through with it.
That's right.
And so the same thing, that is the assessment of you're doing great. How can we help you grow to the next
spot?
The other one is corrective action. You are not doing so great. How do we get you back on track? And it's the same thing, but it's a different trigger. It's, all right, let's throw a timeout. Come sit in my office. Let's talk. We both know that the last 2 months have been rough. I know you were going through some stuff personally. I understand that. We've had a lot of conversations about that. But it's bleeding over to work. And I want to know, A, am I putting too much on your plate? Am I doing X, Y, and Z? Am I doing this? How can I help you in terms of getting you back on track? Because we both know you can do better than you're doing right now.
Right.
And I want to make sure that you stay on track so you get that raise in 4 more months. And so the corrective action is in writing. It is, all right, you are not doing X, Y, and Z. It's taking you sometimes a week to get back to clients. It's this. And we write out everything that we want to have corrected.
Which the point about that is, as a leader, to be unclear is unkind.
Yep.
And sometimes that's a confrontational, uncomfortable place, and you'll skip over details.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important in that space to make it super, super clear.
Yeah, especially the stupid stuff that you don't want to say, but it's like, I got to write. This is a reason that you are not performing well.
That's right, and I want you to. It's unfair to somebody to say, I want you to get back to the marker and then some, because I want you to succeed in this company. I want you to make more money, and then not be clear on the road to get there, and have all of a sudden 6 months, a month later, or whatever, they're being held accountable to something and have another corrective action. Well, we didn't even really talk, like it's not on the paper.
Yeah.
So it's being super, super clear in that moment, because that is being kind to that person, and that's good leadership in a spot.
It is one of those things where it starts engaging very easily in terms of when you start having those conversations. It's like, oh, they want this and they love this. And for people that don't like those corrective action conversations, they're probably not going to work out as an employee.
Right.
For the people that are like, tell me what I'm doing wrong because I feel it, but I don't see it. Can you help me out with that? That's what those meetings become, and those people start growing with the company.
That's right.
So it's very important for those corrective actions to be that way. And this is also, if I would boil down leadership in a corrective action, it is, and why I know their personal development and why I know their professional development and why we've had these conversations when they onboarded and when they hired and all this other stuff, is for this moment during the corrective action when I sit down with you and say, okay, Jared, I know who you are. I know what you want. I know how hard you work at this job, and I know what you sacrifice to be here, and I know the pay that you want to get to. Everything that I've got written out on here is working against that. And I know who you are, and some of these things aren't you. So let's figure out why these things aren't happening, because I know that you can do this and you do this well.
Right.
And if it's just you're done with doing this, great. That's okay. I'd hate that to be the case, but if this isn't the job for you, I'm okay with that. I want you to be where you're happy and comfortable and supported, and in a job that you feel secure and safe and enjoy.
Right.
And if this isn't it, no problem. I am totally okay with you not working here anymore if this isn't for you. If you want to keep working here, what are we going to do about this? Because I can't, you're going to make me fire you, and I don't want to fire you. But if this keeps up, you're forcing my hand, and I'm not okay with that.
Right.
Right. And so it's this is us as a team. I'm the coach. You're the player. Hey, you've not passed the ball a single time on the basketball court. Why? Like you are better than this.
It is the mentality of from day one in action.
Yeah.
Right. The mentality of, I want the best for you.
Yep.
My job is to be a giver.
Yeah.
Right. As the leader of this company, I want to be a giver, and in action, I want to give the best to you, and you're forcing my hand. Help me figure out how to give how to get this better.
Yeah.
Right.
And even if you don't feel it, if you're like this employee needs to be fired, you owe it to them and owe it to their peers, the other employees, to give them that meeting and the benefit of the doubt in that, right? This guy doesn't care. This guy is literally mailing it in. So maybe his review period is going to be a week to 2 weeks as opposed to 90 days, right? Like Jared's not going to work. He's already checked out in his brain. I can tell. I'm having this conversation because I'm still fighting for you. If you've given up on you, that's great. I'm not going to fight harder for you than you're fighting.
Right.
But I'm going to be here and spell this out and be like, dude, is this something that you want to achieve? If not, we can give you a week to pack your stuff and go home. And like, if this isn't for you, no problem.
Yeah.
But if you're like, no, I want this job. Okay, great. We're going to talk next Friday.
Here's the expectations.
If these things aren't done, we're going to have a big issue because it's you telling me that you don't want this job.
Right.
Because you just said you can do this stuff. So if you don't do this stuff, you're choosing not to do your right. That's the leadership mentality that we want, to where it's like, help me help you.
And it's interesting because in that spot, it doesn't really feel like leadership.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like you feel like you're harping on somebody or whatever. But the leadership is that is that giving in that space, is that clarity, is that if it isn't for you, then great, let me help you find a better space. Like that, like I don't want you to be in a space that you don't want to be, but if you sign on to this, you've also signed on that I'm going to hold you accountable to that, and that's how we function.
If you listen to everything I said in that corrective action conversation, there was not a single time that I talked about my needs.
Right.
Not a single time that I said, hey, man, listen, you got to make us more money.
Yeah.
Hey, I feel really disrespected right now because you're not doing this. And I thought you were going to. It's not about me. It's not about me. And it's in this meeting, it is all about you, and I am your assistant partner in this, in the life of Jared. How do we get that to the next spot?
Right.
And do you want that or not? If you don't want that, great. Let's end it. Shake my hand. We'll see you, whatever it is. So,
and a healthy giver, it's not about them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. If I'm giving with a bunch of strings attached, now the reality is I'm giving for the health and growth and development of these people, which is the growth of the company. Yeah. But it actually, I really do care about the health and growth and development of these people.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm if you're listening to this and you own your own company, I'm sure you feel the exact same. Even if you don't own and you're in leadership, imprinting on people's lives and helping them be the best them at work and at home is so rewarding. Yeah. I mean, that's half the reason I love what we do, because how we help these contractors and how we come along beside them is that we get to achieve that with them and be their support and be their cheerleader and be their coach and watch them develop from JV to varsity to NBA, right? And that is watching that growth and being a part of that for me and for you, I know is so rewarding.
It's fulfilling for sure.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we're also making money, right? We're building our retirement. So it's one of those things where it's a win-win all around. So that is how we lead people. Let's go into the steps. What does that mean?
Closing it out. What can you actually do?
If you want to start living this life, if you want to start leading this way to where you're taking care of your employees, we've got a list of things of where to start, where to go. So number one, first thing I do, list every employee or leader I've got. Even if I'm a one-man show, I'm going to list maybe my crew leader, a guy that might become my employee. I want to know and write out the 12-month goal personally and professionally. I'm going to write that out right now. If I can't do that for most of them,
find it out.
I'm going to find it out. Yeah. If I do it for them, I'm going to sit down in our next meeting and say, hey, listen, I'm trying to put together to figure out what your goals are in the next 12 months. This is what I got so far. Can you help me build this list?
Yep.
People, that's taking care of them. That's leadership asking that question.
Yep.
And so saying that that's important to me, and I'm writing this down, and I'm going to come revisit, I'm going to put it in your file. It's going to be here, and we can revisit and change it. That's number one. That's easy to do. There's no thinking in that. I'm just going to sit down and write it out. Second thing to do, create a structured job description for everyone that you're leading. That's the clarity part. That's the structured support and the way that I keep you accountable. I can't have a job description that says you're a project manager, you write estimates, and you run crews, and then I'm yelling at you because you didn't go pick up materials.
Right.
Well, that wasn't on my list. Right. Well, that's kind of part of managing a project. Well, I didn't know that, right? So the clarity of that. And again, Alliance Partners, we've got these job descriptions that you can take and edit and make it your own and use that with the pay scale and be able to just step right in tomorrow with a new employee and have all of this stuff in front of you.
Yep.
Number three, create a list of why you would be hard to follow as a leader. That's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
I want to know why people won't want to follow me. Again, what I shared earlier about how I'm a bull in a china shop and kind of, forget the damage that happens. I just need to get to the end. And I look around and I'm like, oh crap, that was damaging.
Yeah.
Right. So knowing that about myself, that's a reason that people might not want to follow me. So I need to put additional safeguards, people around me that will call me out on it, that know that about me, so that way I'm held accountable. But also, I'm not lying to the people that are following me, where I'm like, no, I'm perfect, and I'm expecting you to be perfect.
Well, and another way to look at that is, where are areas that I hold my employees accountable that I don't lead by example?
Yep.
Right? If I'm not leading by example, but I hold other people accountable to it, it might be a reason why.
Put that on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah. If that's the case, put it on the list, and that's something to talk to them about, right? That's the conversation with them about, hey, listen, I'm going to do this. I need your support in this. Either way, write this list and talk to it's vulnerable. It's hard to have that conversation with your employees, but it is building their respect for you in their brain when you have this conversation with them. Next, number 4, set up your pay and compensation where you can fight for them. We have a very spelled out compensation package. It's kind of difficult with all the numbers that run in the back of the Excel spreadsheet, but it is a way that all of our project managers can know exactly what they can make if they're performing here. It's almost a profit share system, to where if they're making us more money, they're getting paid more money.
It's setting up a clear path that they know and understand how they make more money, period.
Yep. And it's also setting it up to where I can cheer and try to help them make more money. That's the big difference of it too, is it's not only setting the goals for them, but it's also allowing me to be in their corner, as opposed to normal companies that are like, we'll give you a $2,000 raise. No, you're pissed? Okay, $5,000 raise. Right? And so it's one of those, there's no negotiations on pay. There's none of that ever. We're always on the same team. You didn't earn the money that I didn't make any money off you the past 6 months, so I can't pay anymore.
Yep.
Number 5.
Last one.
Start your once a week meeting.
Yep.
Right? Start meeting once a week. And you're like, well, I talk to them every single day. Slow that down. They don't want to be talked to every day. You're micromanaging them. You can have meetings throughout the week of a phone call here, and hey, we're starting a new job. We're doing a client engagement in the office. That's great. Start the important meeting and go through that the checklist that we have of how you do one of these PAL meetings, and really start engaging with them and understanding.
Start the meeting, yes.
Yeah.
But have the thought when you do those of development.
Yep.
Because if you don't, you will have those meetings and it will become a principal's office. How have you done? That's not good enough. Make sure you do this next week. Yeah. That's what it will become.
Yeah.
Go into that meeting with the thought of personal development, with what you know about the individuals that you're meeting with. And it doesn't have to be every time. Yeah. But have that thought as you're going in, that my job is to lead this person into a better person and professional development. Yeah. That's my job. It's to hold them accountable to what they're supposed to do. But I want to go in with the thought of that. Make sure that you're thinking that direction. Don't just start it. Have that thought when you're going into it.
That's it. So that's the 5. I'll run through the 5 list again. List all your employees and get 12-month goals, personally and professionally.
Yep.
Create a structured job description for everyone that you lead. If they don't have one, including yourself, if we don't have an accountability in writing of what they're responsible for, it's worthless.
Right.
Create a list of why you would be hard to follow as a leader, and share that with the people you're leading.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to be held accountable to it. 4, set up a pay/compensation plan where you can fight for them to make more money. It's not them versus us. It's us versus the world.
Yeah.
And then 5, start doing your once-a-week meetings.
Yep.
If you can do those 5 things, and all of those are reasonable stuff that you can sit down and do tomorrow morning for an hour, if you can do that, you are heading towards being the leader that people want to follow.
That's right.
Next week, we're going to talk about building culture, which a lot of this is individual culture, one-on-one, and how do we combine this into a larger?
This out to the team.
Yep. So that's going to be the next podcast. Thank you guys for joining us. Check out our website, ProServeAlliance.com, and we'll see you guys next podcast.
See you then.
Thank you.